Alright, here is a recording I want to do from last week, and it talks about this lady named Sheena Hanson, who's this form, who basically is now this a minister, an ordained minister. And interesting thing is that she highlighted her sexual lifestyle because said that she was LGBT before going for the church, and basically said that she's basically said, hey, I'm no longer out of the closet, so to speak. No, the thing is, when people are commenting on this, yeah, the thing that people are commenting, oh, she was a lesbian. Okay, I mean, to them that was the most important thing about this article, and to me, I'm taking in a different direction. Yeah, her sexual lifestyle I'll highlight, but there is a much more important thing I want to highlight because that thing I want to highlight was more important than her bedroom activities, as far as I'm concerned. So, Sheena Hanson, who was once considered a model lesbian in the queer circles, verge of being ordained a minister of religion. 29-year-old set to be ordained at the Lighthouse Assembly Church of God, which is based on Spanish Town St. Catherine next Wednesday. Meaning this week, alright? Okay. Quote unquote, can you imagine well-known Queen Queer is no minister of the Lord, hence told Weekend Star, and that her life to the Lord, giving her life to the Lord 3 years ago was the best decision we ever made? When you look at this, only God answer how amazing the story is. No one I messed up with that I'd be ministering to people about Christ, she said. Hanson said she was involved in a lesbian relationship for years until she found God. As well known as supposed to lifestyle at a very early age, I went to all girls high school. It got more intense. As a 6 year relationship with my first love. We lived together and did everything as a normal couple do. At one time we're engaged to be married. I'm saved now. I'm really doing what the Lord has called me to do. I'm just trying to stay rooted and grounded. Even though I was a lesbian before, people think as soon as you change your life, those urges go away. It's not like that. I had that struggle. I chose to live my life as a Christian. That's why I have not turned back. And so told Weekend Star. She claimed, okay, this is where we're going to get into. This is where you're kind of unraveling who Sheena Hanson really is outside of her lifestyle. She claimed to have experienced several unsuccessful relationships with men, okay, and was molested by two male relatives as a child. See, there is the part that I wanted to highlight right there, because you get understanding where she's coming from. Hanson said she gave her life to Christ after going to an event at the church she currently attends. She called that she went there in her bleaching clothes with a spliff and sat at the back. Quote unquote, the pastor started singing. I just found myself crying. I don't remember what the pastor preached. I just know I cried the entire service. That's when I started going back to church, Hanson said. My appetite started to change from the secular world. I didn't totally understand what's happening to me. I didn't want to go to parties anymore. Alright, but basically say I was still LGBT. So when Anthony's friends criticized her for choice, they said her decision paid dividends, especially as it helped mend bonds with her parents. Hanson's knows determined to stay on the heavenly path. Okay, since I got baptized, I told her will go celibate until I'm married. At that moment, I'm open to having a family one day. When the right person comes, I'll be ready for that, she said. So, alright, so this is basically Sheena Hanson. No, I know a lot of people are going to criticize her and said, oh, she's basically a sodomite, she's this and that, oh, that she's okay, that she hasn't really changed, that perhaps she still has those urges and so on. And I'm gonna say this, what goes on in her bedroom is none of my business. I'm not here to say, okay, yay or nay, that hey, that okay, I'm gonna judge her due to who's in her bedroom. I mean, that's not even my concern at this store. No, the part what I found interesting, all right, is that I was first when I was starting to read about this last week. I thought, okay, when she said, okay, but I just had a curiosity about the story, and I said, okay, maybe she said that either maybe she had these urges or tendencies before it says growing up, and then okay, when she went to the Church of God, that she said, okay, maybe she still has urges, or maybe she's gone to men. Who knows? But the thing I found out is because the thing, bear in mind something. Even though people assume that okay, that when you're in the house of God, that okay, that there aren't LGBT people there, you're a damn fool. All right, there are people who are in church who are LGBT. Whether or not you agree with their lifestyle, that is what it is. 'Cause remember, like that pastor who got killed last year, and they just sentenced his killers Turns out that that pastor or preacher, what minister was, went on a gay white website and met these men. So we lead up to speculation to as to how he really gets down in his own household. But there are people LGBT in the church. That's something that you're going to have to bear in mind. All right, whether or not you want to hear that, that is something to bear in mind. Yeah, 'cause I know the church basically says, "Oh, we know homosexuality is a sin. That you can't be a homosexual if you're a person of God." But yeah, if you know, unfortunately, if you know the church's history, you'll know that is far from the truth. There are people within the church who are gay, and there are people who know that they're gay, but they say ain't really going to be going into bedrooms and dictating what they do, whatever. As long as like they function in church in some other ways, hey, that's between them and their lifestyle partner. But what I found interesting about Sheena Hanson is that is not really what her like what her being a lesbian, but what actually most likely led to what she was led to what she was going through. Because I see someone who was a abuse victim that obviously needs to be highlighted, because that's the thing that people did not really focus on. Said she claimed to have experienced several unsuccessful relationships with men and was molested by two male relatives as a child. That is a thing that a lot of people ignored and skipped over. People are just skipping over the fact that okay, this woman is was an abuse victim. Said, and what basically seems that it looks like to me is that she, after being molested by those two male relatives, and I really hope those bastards are in a jail cell or under the jail cell. It just seems to me that this woman, that after that very traumatic experience, after being sexually violated as a child by those two so-called relatives, that most likely traumatized or scarred or turned away from men. Because we would say that and the fact that even when she said unsuccessful relationship with men, obviously it got up to a point where probably due to the fact that she never got over what happened to her, and she didn't mention whether or not she reported those relatives to the police or whatever. I really hope that she try to get criminal charges pressed against them. Because the fact that if they haven't been punished for what they did to this woman, that should be the bone of contention right there. That these people, that she was an abuse victim, and and nothing is said as to whether or not she was whether or not she got justice for what happened to her as a child. That is what thing I want to highlight right there. And it does basically seems why what happened was that after this very traumatic experience with those two male relatives, who basically screwed her up so psychologically, and it probably turned her away from men as she grew up, and she probably maybe as a result of her scarred experiences that she probably thought that women were better, and there's pretty much was the influence that led to her lifestyle as a lesbian. Now, if she had said that, okay, I've always had these tendencies, regardless of whether I've been abused, then when she said, okay, I went to church and said I'm not a lesbian, that means she's just bisexual. That means that maybe she does still has those tendencies, but she probably realized that hey, I'm not fully gay, so I'm and so on. But it does seem maybe she wasn't never a lesbian, full LGBT to begin with. This means that when she went to that church, she probably realized that she faced those inner demons of hers, because she basically said that she used to be a person of the world. All right, and she basically realized, okay, let me probably that pastor helped her to counsel her and to drive out those demons that was tormented her. And she said, you know what? It's just because of that very horrific experience with those two male relatives. Maybe I'm not really gay after all. Maybe she still has urges, but she probably said that, you know what? I was just so traumatized and scarred, and that turned me away from men growing up that I thought that probably women were a better choice. Now, bear in mind, I'm not to throw shade at the LGBT community. There's a lot of abuse and violence that happens within the LGBT community, because I just did a recording on Shanita Beckford. If you want to read that, follow that recording, you know what's up with that. But this just basically seems that what happened with her. No, My hope is that she got justice for what happened to her when she was molested, because that to me was the most important highlight of the story. That she should get justice, and hopefully those two male relatives are in a jail cell, or they've been sent off the mortal coil to be the master Satan in the underworld. That's the only thing I can really hope for, because I hope that anyone follows the story, maybe she sees she can elaborate and say what happened to those two relatives, because I really hope she got justice for what happened to her, and if it and so on. So that's what my take of the story is. That, and the thing is though, is that not to really bash the LGBT community, but I just find it very interesting. A lot of stories I've been reading, though, for some, because there's even another story about this other female who was a lesbian who came to the house of God and basically said, I renounce that lifestyle. That she basically says the same thing. Hey, I was sexually abused when I was younger. And as a common case, you find with a lot of these people who happen to be LGBT, that many of them have said that, hey, we were sexually molested growing up, and in a lot of cases, those are what leads to them probably believing that they are LGBT. But as opposed to them saying, hey, I was always had those tendencies, because like coming like with Diana King, who's LGBT, I believe she's always been that way, and she just got to a point where she didn't hide it anymore. I mean, unless she comes and saying that, oh, I was sexually abused growing up. I don't know, but I just a observation I had about the story, and that is what should have been highlighted. That this woman was a victim of sexual abuse, and she needs to get justice for what happened to her. That's the angle of the story I'm coming with. So, anyways, that's all I have to say. This is for State of Jamaican Caribbean. Check out my YouTube pages, Miles Gusson Fern, Miles Just Productions, Real Thoughts and Miles. All right.